Hello, everyone. Welcome to From One Side to the Other. I am Kristoff N. Chester. We have the bishop over in the corner.
Hi.
And we don't have Jesus.
Do not.
Oh, yes, calm down, Scraps. Yeesh.
Football here.
Angry little buggers. Hi, Tara. My dear sister is first into the chat.
Hey, Tara. Hey, Dad.
Hello, Mr. Bishop. Yeah, so it's kind of annoying because I was really anticipating Jesus would be here tonight. But, of course, you ever notice how it's every time that I'm like actually counting on him?
See, that was the thing. You told him
I-
that we were talking D&D stories, which is something he could really talk about today.
Of
He's
course,
not here.
he's not here. No, he's at Bass Pro Shop of all places.
Fishing trip.
Yeah. Anyway, though, that's okay, though, because you know what? The truth of the matter is, if there is anyone who doesn't want his D&D stories told, it's Jesus. And I'm going to take him not being here as him completely authorizing and okaying me to tell all the stories that involve him. Now, let's get some context real quick, because we're talking about our stories from Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D if you're affiliated. Which is an interesting story in itself, actually, because, how do I put this? It is a franchise, it is an IP, it is a thing that has grown and changed, and this might sound kind of dramatic, but in a weird way, it's grown and changed alongside America. You can see America's culture, and some people would argue the health of that culture, by looking at how D&D played into it. Now, D&D itself was created in 1974, just in case you didn't feel old yet, by a company called TSR, which I actually have here. Hold on just a minute. Yes, Tactical Studios Rules. That was their original company name, TSR. A lot of people have opinions about TSR, and Gary Gygax, one of the original creators of D&D, a lot of people call him the father of it. Even though, if we're being completely fair here, he didn't do it by himself, actually. But he is considered the forefather of it, and there are lots of people who conveniently, only in the past few years have started telling stories about him, making him kind of a controversial figure. I'm not going to touch that can of worms, but I'm going to talk a little bit about D&D itself. Now, what's funny is almost nobody actually knows what D&D was supposed to be. When it was created, what it was actually supposed to be, in the opinion of TSR and Gygax himself. Fun side note, before we get too deep into this, the other people who worked at TSR found Gygax so meticulous and anal and just difficult to work with that they actually made one of the most powerful, dangerous monsters in the original monster manual and called it a Gygax after him. And it was kind of a joke that if your DM sicks a Gygax on you, he's trying to tell you something. He is trying to be a jerk. Oh, geez. Yeah. Don't worry, Tara. I haven't forgotten you. I'll bring you up. Anyway, though. But we're talking about what is D&D. Now, most people know D&D today. How do I put this? It's a social media trend modernly. And like I said, it's reflective of the culture of America. Because when it first came out, it was very much part of the defiant culture, the anti-establishment. It was the thing that the young kids did that their parents didn't understand or know about.
Stick it to the man.
Yeah. stuff like that. The what's the term? Traditional liberal mentality, I think, is the terminology. I don't know. I can't keep these crappy things straight. Anyway, what's interesting is that it was kind of the last gasp of also one of the darkest times in American history, the 1950s censorship, with the resurgence of the Satanic Panic. See, the people at TSR kind of fancied themselves historians. They loved actual history. And so they riddled the original first edition of D&D with biblical references, historical accounts, things like that, including having several villainous characters that you could have campaigns against who are actual demons or evil characters mentioned in the Bible and the Torah, or Old Testament if you're not a nerd. And of course, anytime you mention anything evil or demonic, you're automatically advocating for it, which I never understood personally. It's like, yes, Satan is in fact a character in the original first edition of D&D. You're supposed to kick the crap out of him. I don't see how this is advocating for him. You know what I mean? It's like and again, keep in mind, in the first edition, they didn't have a lot to it. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the whole concept of it playing an evil character wasn't introduced until 3rd edition, which, by the way, only happened after TSR went bankrupt and Hasbro bought the rights to D&D. That's when they created the whole expanded system of, being able to play as monstrous races, being able to play evil characters and things like that. And that didn't happen until the late 90s. So the whole Satanic Panic thing was like the last dying breath of the censorship that we saw get really bad in the 50s, and it started to die in the 60s. And by the 70s, we were really free of it, and you started seeing a lot more expression and creativity and, freedoms in the arts. But we weren't quite there. We still had to get to the 80s when I think we got to the pinnacle of fantasy art, and we truly were free from censorship. But that's just my personal opinion. Getting back to my point, you can see D&D reflect the culture of America. When it first came out, it was all about the concept of, really, it was very structured to, you played as a bunch of good guys that were going against some kind of evil king or establishment. Most people don't realize this. A lot of people valiantly defend that D&D first edition is the only true Dungeons and Dragons, that advanced, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, there's a new one coming out soon that they're just calling D&D 1, which why would you call it that? Why? Just call it 6th edition. Seriously, okay? Or better yet, just fix 5th. But anyway, I'll get back to my point. And for the record, yes, we're going to be talking very nerdy tonight. Oh, hi, Donzin. About time you got here. Anyway, back to what it was originally designed for. D&D was never meant to be a setting. It was supposed to be a set of rules, just so that you could basically make your own game. And then TSR realized, holy cow, everybody and their ugly sister, emphasis on the ugly sister, will buy this. And so they did turn it kind of into a setting, although they were very clever about it because they didn't really name names too much. Everyone has their favorite Dungeons and Dragons settings, but this will probably blow people's mind. Ravenloft, the Tomb of Annihilation, oh god. Basically any place that is actually named, Dagger Keep. None of that was a thing until we got to Advanced D&D, which is some people call 2nd edition. Even though I think there was an official 2nd edition, but it was basically just Advanced. So feel free to have a flame war in the of your nerdiness down in the comments, by the way. If Advanced D&D is the 2nd edition or if it's not, have fun with that. Personally, I've never actually played Advanced. I have no real experience with it. I've only heard it spoken in legend. And from what I understand, it was horrifying with how much rules and information. Which is funny because I come from 3.5. That's when I started playing. Which is also known as, hold on, I have a book for that. 3.5 had so many. I literally think there were hundreds of books for 3.5. Because it was at that point that they had been bought out by Hasbro and passed off to Wizards of the Coast. So Wizards wanted to monetize it as much as possible, so they printed out book after book after book after book after book. And it's funny because I had like 5 out of hundreds, and I never had a problem. Admittedly, most of the stuff I did was playing... we had a teacher in my middle school, Mr. Kellogg. He was the music teacher. On lunch breaks, he would have little mini D&D sessions, pretty much just dungeon crawling, which is my bread and butter. I love dungeon crawling. But anyway, back to my point. You can really see D&D in America and how it reflects. Because after 1st and 2nd edition came out, we got into the 80s, and they had the TV show, they had merchandise, it was becoming a name, it was becoming a brand, an IP. Not you, someone else. Anyway, though, and then it kind of quieted down and tapered away with 3rd edition, which was funny because 3rd edition came out, and almost immediately Wizards of the Coast acknowledged they were not Gygax. They did not know what they were doing at all. I have never in my life actually seen any physical media from 3rd edition. The only things I've ever seen are 3.5. And I have a bunch of those books actually in my room still. Kind of, we were getting ready, had all this time. I should have grabbed a couple of them.
You should have.
But anyway, oh well. It's not a big deal. I mean, they'd barely be able to see it anyway. And besides, I don't know if we could actually hold it up and show it, because it's owned by Wizards of the Coast, and they are literally horrible people. Screw you. Anyway, so 3rd edition came out, and it completely was trash. So they had to try and save it, and their idea was to basically release a new edition, but they weren't ready to admit that 3rd was a failure. So I want to say it was only within 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. It was within 2 years. Everything good?
Yeah. Okay.
Within 2 years, they had, hold your pants for this one, boys and girls, 3.5, 3.5. It was basically a whole new system. And I'm kind of torn on it. A lot of people have their opinions about 3.5 because it was truly Wizards of the Coast's creation, and a lot of people say that it was a monetization thing, and it was huge, and it was bloated, and it was mainstream, and it was never what Gygax intended. A lot of people argue 3.5 is what finally pushed the boulder to start rolling to found the game Pathfinder. Which, by the way, if you want to start a fight, go to a card shop, go to a Hobby Lobby, go to any place where nerds, actual nerds, congregate, and then say that Pathfinder and D&D are the same thing. But remember to duck immediately, because something will be thrown at your head. No. The tribes of D&D and Pathfinder, for some reason, they hate each other. They're both D20 modular games. They both use the same characters. I do believe Pathfinder has a few unique, specific locations that are only considered Pathfinder and not considered Dungeons and Dragons. But no, these two games are almost identical. And yet, it's like the Pepsi and Coke thing, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a soda. It's a soft drink. But don't you dare mix them up. You bring a Pepsi lover a Coca-Cola, I'm pretty sure they think they're qualified to rip your soul out of your body. These two tribes hate each other with a passion. For the longest time they did. And nowadays you actually see a lot of people who say they've played both. I've never played Pathfinder. I've kind of been curious about it, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. When you're like 35, 36 years old and you have a day job and shit like that, it is hard to sit down and actually set up a whole thing. Which is funny because we'll round back to that in a minute, I promise. And everyone's just sitting there. I thought you were going to tell stories about you playing it. We'll get to that. I promise we'll get to that. But I want to talk about this thing and why it's important in the first place. So 3.5 came and it introduced a lot of stuff to buy. Books. They actually had mystery packs with the miniatures. For example, I got these little guys here. So picture this for a moment, folks. You'd go into a hobby store or a Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble was actually a big business partner with Wizards of the Coast once upon a time. And so the best place to honestly get the stuff for 3.5 was actually at Barnes & Noble. And that's something I would do sometimes, actually. I'd go and I'd buy a little mystery pack with these guys. And a lot of people had opinions about that. A lot of people didn't like the idea that it was random boxes, that you'd have to buy multiple of them to hopefully get the right model that you need to run your campaign. And here's the thing. Maybe this is just the blind consumer in me talking, but I'm going to say it. The fact that there were rare and common miniatures kind of made them special, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Donson wants to see them.
See it again? Yeah, here you go. That is my young black dragon, which is a bit of a cheat, I'll admit, because there was a starter box that you could buy, and the idea was that would basically be your first experience with D&D, and that model came with, well, I guess not model, miniature, because you don't build it.
It's really hard to see.
It is. It's not coming into focus. That's weird.
It's in focus. It's just the lighting.
Oh, the lighting's not good. Yeah. But, yeah, so that was actually my very first D&D miniature. Not that one specifically. I actually sadly have lost my original young black dragon, so I had to get a replacement. I ordered it for when my little brother Sean was here, because I'll get to that later. It was going to be part of a surprise. It showed up like, what, 3 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 days ago? You know, I love eBay because it gives you access to like really old stuff. But boy howdy, some of those sellers, man, they just take their sweet time getting things to you. Am I right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Although I will say, as far as because I mentioned tribalism earlier, I am completely 100% team eBay. I'm not actually a big fan of Amazon. Mainly because Amazon, you can only buy things that are current. There's really not an old stuff market in Amazon, which is funny because that's what it used to be. First it was a bookstore, then it was basically another version of eBay, and then it became Jeff Bezos has it now. But anyway, back to what I was saying. And it kind of got quiet in the 90s, early 2000s with 3.5 because a lot of people turned up their nose to the randomization and the collector aspect of it. Let's put it that way. Which I get, I understand. You shouldn't have to buy like 4 or 5 boxes of random miniatures to try and get the one thing that you need to do your campaign. But see, I would still argue there's another way to look at that. Be surprised. Open the box up and be challenged to use the miniatures that you randomly got. You know what I mean? And me personally, I loved the spirit of D&D, which is there's no set world. It's a set of rules so you can make a game. The whole idea of using locations from the official trademarked stuff, that's never been appealing to me, really. Except for one example, which I'll get to in a little bit. I promise. But anyway, and then 4th edition came out. which has a very funny story that most people think is an urban legend, but it's actually true. This is true. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Sean. It's kind of it's a challenge. It's forcing your creativity. The randomness was a fun thing. Although I do acknowledge, I do know when you'd see the poster with all the different miniatures that you could possibly get in that box, and you're like, oh, that Sphinx would be so cool. 4 boxes later, you still have no Sphinx. That is disheartening. I will give you that. Or worse yet, you open it and the rare one is ones you already got before anyway. That sucks. That second unicorn is always not cool. But now you have 2 unicorns to use. You know, you gotta be positive about it. But I'm just saying I understand why some people didn't like it. For me, the thing that actually turned me off with 3.5 was that it took a long time to actually make a character, and there was so many extra things you could add in, so many more books you could add for stuff, that it became overwhelming and a bit disheartening. But I didn't mind the collectability aspect that Wizards of the Coast tried to put into it. Anyway, though, along came 4th edition. Now, 4th edition was, geez, when was that? Like, I want to say 2013, 2014 off the top of my head. It wasn't too long ago, actually. It was a fairly short-lived edition. And it's funny because it was, in my opinion, Wizards of the Coast caved, because D&D 4th edition was considered the shortest of all the editions. It was only a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken. And as far as I know, there was only one official adventure campaign modular thing made for it.
2008, 4th edition.
2008. Wow, it was older than I thought.
2014, 5th edition.
14, really? Okay. Anyway, though, 4th edition is considered the runt of the litter. But before I get into that, 4th edition was actually made with a very strange premise. And a lot of people claim this is an urban legend, but this is true. When they sat down at the table to make 4th, the core concept they had was that a party would consist of 4 players. And the archetypes that they followed, don't laugh, were the Golden Girls. You had Dorothy, the responsible smart person. You had Rose, the innocent sweetheart. You had Blanche, the one who I can't say because censorship laws. And then, of course, you had the wise, old, tired of your shit Sophia. This was used as the core concept of, if you were playing 4th edition, you would have a team like that, filling those kind of archetypes. And you think I'm joking, but no, that was a true inspiration for it. They also wanted to make 4th edition highly accessible, which infuriated nerds. So we have to address the elephant in the room, and I'm going to do it here. There is what I call pathetic pride in a lot of nerd culture. And you see it still today, especially with Wizards of the Coast products, because they kind of encouraged this. This idea that, well, you haven't slaved away and spent hours upon hours upon hours of your life investing in this hobby, so therefore you don't deserve it. You shouldn't be in here because you have a day job and you can't spend 15 hours on social media just scanning everything using hashtag D&D Beyond. You can't play at our table. This kind of bizarre pride in the fact that you have no life whatsoever, outside of this fictional table game. They took pride in that, and when you present an edition that is designed for Joe Schmo, some person who maybe spent 20 minutes reading a book, you can play D&D 4th edition, because it was all designed around dungeon crawling, moving across terrain, fighting monsters, doing very basic things like checking traps, opening doors, and things like of that nature. And the idea was a lot of people psych themselves out and say they can't play D&D. I hear this so goddamn much. I heard it so many times. I can't play D&D. I couldn't understand it. I wouldn't be able to keep it straight. There's too many dice. There's too much of this. There's too much of that. And to be fair, that was valid in the wake of 3.5 because even I felt that way. With all the hundreds of books and all that stuff. And plus, yes, previous editions were supposedly even worse than 3.5 in terms of micromanaging and nitty details. There were in advanced, there were entire classes you could take that literally focused on doing one thing. Do you think I'm joking? Look up D&D Lancer. It is a class built entirely around the idea of charging, meaning moving multiple spaces, basically running with a weapon to hit someone. That's it. They have no skills that pertain to anything else at all. That's how minute and specific and intricate D&D was. And then 4th edition came along and it was very simple. Okay, what level are you? Cool, you have this many slots for your skills and abilities. Choose a card that is at your level. When you use that card, flip it over unless it says not to flip it over. That's it. That is all. You have little flashcards. You don't need a bunch of books. You still used all the different dice, which is cool. I liked the different dice personally. But it was the idea was that it was not a nerd thing. It was something that anyone could pick up and play. And there's a bitter irony here because people rejected 4th edition. They rejected the idea that Billy from the football team could sit down at the nerds table and play D&D. Which my question is, well, why the hell not? I mean, if Billy wants to play, I don't care if he gave Timmy a wedgie the other week. No. Look, I've always said this, and people bring this up with me today, because we're very divided, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I've always said, anyone who actually wants to be at my table, anyone who wants to be here in this chat, anyone who wants to watch any of my videos or talk to me personally, all I ask is that you genuinely want to do it. I can't make you want to watch my stories. I can't make you want to be in this chat. You either do or you don't. There is no in between. And that's all I ever cared about. Okay, fine, sure. Billy is a jock. So? What's wrong with that? That has nothing to do with the table. If he wants to be there, he has every right to be. But again, there was this pathetic pride, this resistance to the idea that it could be for anybody, like genuinely for anyone. And again, we'll get to that in a minute. That was rejected by the fan base. And so 4th edition kind of came and went with a whimper, even though it actually ran for 08 to 014. That would be 6 years?
Yeah.
6 years. That's a pretty good length for a game, for a tabletop game. But it had very little support, actually. Wizards of the Coast kind of made it and backed off. But people, nerds and critics and official people didn't like it. And so they kept it quiet, and then we got 5th edition, where everything went horribly, horribly wrong. And I mean that since look. There's a part of me, there's a reason I didn't want to talk about this, because it's personal. You know what I mean? The D&D by its nature is something that you invest a lot of mental and emotional energy into. So people who are involved in it have strong opinions. I respect those opinions. I also have my own. And my own is that 5th edition is dog shit. Now, if it's an edition you like, that's totally cool. I'm glad you can enjoy this game. Like I said, anyone who wants to genuinely play Dungeons and Dragons should. And if you prefer 5th, that's fine. But the thing about 5th edition, in my opinion, is it's where you can see the decline. Because suddenly, for starters, everything was the DM's responsibility. Most of the time, it came down to the DM rolling dice and the players just basically role-playing and saying what they're doing. Very, very little emphasis on the players actually rolling dice and having to do stuff themselves. It was all on the DM. And this was done for streaming. Real quick, this is tinfoil hat territory, but I'm going to say it anyway. The fact of the matter... No, yeah, laugh all you want. No, this is the truth of the matter. Because remember how I said D&D reflects America's culture, for better or worse. 5th edition was made for Twitch. It was made to watch someone else do it on a live stream. Great example, Critical Role, which I may not be able to say. We might actually get struck, because they're actually pretty anal now. I mean, there's a lot we could conspiracies about Critical Role actually would be a hilarious episode in itself. But anyway, and so Wizards of the Coast basically took D&D, and whereas 4th edition was made so anyone could play, 5th edition was made so anyone could watch. 90% of it is done by the DM, with players basically just saying their response. I've seen entire games of 5th edition played where nobody even has any miniatures or even rolls any dice except for the DM. Because again, it was emphasized on the role-playing aspect, the talking to NPCs as they would be called, which is to say, expecting a DM to just play 12 different people simultaneously, all talking to a bunch of people who are painfully bored at the table, waiting for something to remotely happen. I sincerely hate 5th edition, I really do. Because again, it's not on the table. It's mostly it's designed for the theater of the mind, of saying, I do this, I talk to this person, and then the DM carries the weight and has to play these characters and explain how things play out with the dice. Which, of course, every dice roll you make will be bad, and it'll be your fault somehow. And here's the funny thing, too, actually, because it gained popularity on social media with journalists and influencers. You know, the kind of people that you find their opinions when you look underneath your shoe kind of thing. Yeah, those people. It became very loud and popular in echo chambers where people could watch it without playing, and they were able to say that they were fans of the game, which gets me to the irony. 5th edition was made for streaming and stuff like that, and 4th edition was called bad because it was made with the premise that anyone could play it. Anyone was welcome to play D&D. That was the premise of 4th edition. 5th edition opened the gates to the most obnoxious, toxic, unaccepting, and frankly, dim-witted kind of players. People who literally would just stare up you slack-jawed, wondering why you didn't let them do the thing they wanted to do. Well, it's because you rolled a 2, Timmy. Okay, that means you failed. I'm sorry. Take it up with the dice. No, I actually DM'd a game of 5th edition, a whole campaign. And I got so sick and tired of saying, aye, the dice say no. Because, yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's the game of D&D. It's a game of chance and of risk and calculation and forethought. No. 5th edition is literally a game of memes and saying obnoxious jokes because the people watching on your hypothetical stream are totally going to love it. This also gave rise of the meme lord, something that I honestly would check underneath my bed for because they are that much of a blight upon humanity. Which, by the way, a lot of people sit there, oh, you're a stick in the mud. You're not a fun DM. No. Here's the problem with joke characters. Here's the problem with your, I'm a sentient loaf of bread that has one level in wizard so I can cast unseen hands to lift myself and move around. Cute, Timmy. Very cute. Now, how cute is that joke going to be on the 4th session? You said the joke. That's it. But now you're stuck with it. Every week, or however often you play, every time making the same pun, the same joke. Here's a question for you, everyone. If I just said to you, Orange, you glad I didn't say banana? And I said nothing else to you? How long before you would want to punch me in the face? 3 repetitions? 5 repetitions? 30 repetitions? That's what a joke or a meme character in D&D is. It's a punchline that you just keep repeating over and over. And it always ends the same way. It ends with the player getting bored of the thing and wanting the DM to kill it. Because I've never seen a meme character, a meme player who actually has the gonads to just admit that their idea was dumb and drop it. They always push the DM. They always try and provoke them into saying, okay, yeah, city guards are going to kill you now. And then, of course, the DM is the bad guy. He's not here to elaborate further, but I'll get to that. And so, yeah, it's like people sit there and say, I'm hard on players with jokes and stuff. Yes, I am that way for my players because I know what's going to happen. I know how it's going to end. It's going to end with disappointment and detachment from the game. I don't want you to do that if you're sitting at my table. I want you to love your character. I want you to look forward to the game sessions. That's the point. That is the spirit of D&D. It is, at its core, a skeleton structure for creativity. And when you just go onto ye old Reddit and find a meme character, you're not being creative. So you're not going to get anything out of the game, out of the experience. And it's just going to be, why would I want that for my player? Why would I want that for someone at my table? And the funny thing is that even though Wizards of the Coast swore up and down that 4th edition was gone, it was done, it was never coming back, yeah, they brought it back. Because they realized that nobody was playing 5th edition except for like 12 streamers on Twitch. They brought back D&D 4th edition, they just called it D&D Adventures. These were board games contained within themselves that used the 4th edition mechanics to play games. They also used them as an excuse to keep copyrights, actually. That's why you have Dungeons & Dragons Adventures, Castle Ravenloft, Tomb of Annihilation, Dagger Keep. These were all copyrighted names that they had to keep relevant, so they made 4th edition again, just in a box, and they slapped these copyrighted terms on them so that they could keep them in the public domain. Out of the public domain. And the funny thing is I would personally argue that D&D Adventures is 10 times better than frickin' 5th edition. Seriously. Here's an example. I have, over back of the house, on the table, D&D Adventures Castle Ravenloft, sitting right there at the table. I can't wait to play that again. If you asked me to play 5th edition, I would tell you to get out of my house. Well, maybe not actually tell you to get out of my house, but I would tell you no, absolutely. And if you pushed it, I might tell you to get out of my house. Sean, I think you're being a bit hard on yourself. That wasn't a joke character. He was definitely comedic, I'll give you that. But again, a joke character and a comedic character are not the same thing. A joke character is literally, the character itself is a joke. A comedic character, like, for example, your guy, Thops, the skeleton wizard, well, no, he was meant to be funny. Yeah, he was meant to be comedic. He himself wasn't a joke. The way you played the character, the way you presented him was a joke. Because it was, again, is more lighthearted and more comedic, which is, again, ironic for a skeleton wizard. The most lighthearted character I've ever played with was a skeleton wizard. There you go. But see, that's the spirit of D&D, is that you can be absurd. You can be anything that you can think of. The problem with joke characters is that 9 times out of 10 it's not being thought of. It's something that they got off Reddit or Facebook or something and thought, that was funny for 30 seconds. I'll play it for 3 game sessions and then make my DM put it down like old Yeller. But anyway, back to my point. The D&D, they became known as the D&D board games. Because they kind of are, but they're kind of not. It's weird. It's nebulous. But, hell, they're still making those things. I want to say only a few months ago they came out with a new one. Ghosts of the Salt Marsh. Which ironically apparently didn't sell well because it was the first one that didn't come with miniatures. And a lot of people were like, that's like a quarter of the fun is the little guys. The models. This is one of the bishop's characters, Inada T, actually, the little snake person. Yeah. I love the model. I love the miniatures and the models and stuff like that.
I do too.
There's a lot of third parties that actually you can buy them unpainted, and I actually love painting them and hot gluing different parts on them together. And I think the kids call it kit bashing. I call it just being creative. I love my little models. I love making stuff. One of the funnest parts about when Sean came to visit actually was the fact that he painted his very first model. He painted Thops. But anyway, the D&D board games, it's funny because Wizards of the Coast tried to market it as their idea, but what if I told you that was a bold-faced lie? TSR, because again, remember, when they realized that D&D was selling and people liked this, they threw everything at the wall trying to recapture D&D, and they made it in a bunch of different ways, including board games like the legendary Dungeon, which a lot of people say is one of the most frustrating but fun board games you can have. I actually had that originally. Another game they made was Dragon Strike, which a lot of people argue is the original D&D adventure board game. Basically, it was what Wizards of the Coast was. You ever seen that meme of like the 3 kids and each of them is looking at another one's paper?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the one kid at the front who's looking on his phone. Dragon Strike, TSR's Dragon Strike, is basically what the kid is looking at on his phone. It's the original idea of a dungeon crawler in a box. And it is one of the most fun games I have ever played. I absolutely love that game. And it gave rise to a character that, if you were to have described this character to me, if like future me came through a portal and just warned me about this character, I'd swear someone had drugged me. Like, no, I couldn't love that character. I couldn't like that guy. But nope, I fell in love with him. And, but basically that's what D&D is. It has been this piece of Americana that really reflects the culture. And as far as current D&D 5th edition, I personally think it's a very bad reflection, just because it's hollow, in my opinion. It's empty. It's a game designed to be watched, not played. And it's overrun with lazy, unthinking meme lords. Which is why I personally say, screw Wizards of the Coast. I'm just gonna play TSR games. You think I'm hurting for stuff to play? I got boards over there that I haven't touched yet that are collecting dust. Do you think I'm in a rush to run out and play D&D 1? No, I'm fine. Thank you. It doesn't help that Wizards of the Coast former spokesman came out and said that, depending on your race and religion, he didn't want you to buy his products, so double fuck you. You know what the best part of it is? His last name was Cox. And now he's gone. Fucker. But anyway, no. But finally we'll get to the good stuff. I promised you that I would tell you stories from my D&D table, from my experiences. I wanted Jesus to be here so he could share some of his stories, but apparently he has to be at Bass Pro Shop, so fine. Maybe the bishop will tell some stories from over in the corner. They can hear you, right? You guys can hear the bishop, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I always worry about it because the mic is pointed towards me.
They probably hear me more than you.
I know, that's how this microphone works. It doesn't like me. It doesn't like me, I swear. But anyway, so one of my favorite D&D stories, this was back in 3.5, by the way. So this might shock some people, but I've never liked the Tolkien 3. I've never been a big fan of humans, elves, and dwarves. I prefer the more monstrous races. I like orcs and gnolls and ogres and critters like that. The various animal folk, cat folk, merfolk, rat folk, those kind of critters. I've always preferred those races just because... How do I say this without being insulting? I can't, so I'm just going to say it. Elves, humans, and dwarves always struck me as very vanilla and very little effort. You know what I mean? Like very little thought goes into it. What are you? A human fighter? Oh, hi, Spider-Man. It's like so... That just feels like there's so little. Now, that being said, if you disagree, if you like being a human fighter or you like an elf wizard, prove me wrong. No, come to my table. I would absolutely love to have you come to my table. Just because it's not to my taste doesn't mean I think it's wrong. I just don't like humans, elves, and dwarves. But anyway, so I always played as the weird races. And one of my favorites is gnolls. Now, for those of you who don't know, gnoll is basically an anthropomorphic hyena, a humanoid hyena, for lack of a better term. Because I like hyenas, so yeah, why not play a gnoll? But anyway, now in 3.5, there was this weird structure about size. Different races were a different size category. For example, a human was normal. Excuse me. An ogre was huge. A giant was its own size category, actually. No, literally, there were giants that were not giant. Wrap your head around that for a second. But anyway, gnolls fell into the category of large, which is one step above normal. And we were playing in Kellogg's classroom during lunch break, and I played as this gnoll barbarian, if I'm not mistaken. I was a barbarian. Pretty sure I was barbarian. Might have been a fighter. I was a combat focused guy. I was a big, dumb, strong dude. And there was this one person who played with us, and everyone hated this guy because he was such an obnoxious little meta player. He was a gnome ranger. He chose these because gnome had the most buffs and bonuses for being what they were. Oh, hey, my unicorn. One of my unicorns. The bishop found one of my old unicorn models.
Interrupted by a unicorn.
I want to say...
No ranger.
Real quick. God. No, this one had a name. Oron. This was Oron. I remember him. I remember this model. He's covered in dust. But yeah, no, this was Oron, the unicorn. Put him down there on the table. Anyway, back to my story. So basically he had chosen gnome and chosen ranger because he had literally sat there. And this goes back to what I was talking about, the pathetic pride, the pride in being pathetic. He literally sat down in 3rd edition in this librarian themed setting with hundreds of books. He sat down and mathematically cracked the code to make the most broken, annoying party member. And he was always trying to kill the monsters. He hated when anyone else got a kill. He played it competitively. He played it like it was a competition. And everyone was annoyed with him because he would never cooperate. He would never go along with our plans unless they were his plan. Then, of course, obviously everyone needs to work together. But anyway, we found this old temple that had been desecrated, and we were exploring it. And one of our party members, ironically, it was a necromancer, if I'm not mistaken, she found these scrolls. Now, the problem is that these scrolls were written in angelic. No one in the party could actually read it, but one of us got a really good religion roll. And so we were like, we had a theory that these were scrolls of the prayer, true resurrection, which is the end-all, beat-all, most powerful thing you can do in the divine classes. Doesn't matter how the target died. Even if you have just a single bone or strand of hair left of them, anything of them, complete and utter reversal of death. No questions asked, no nothing. They're back like nothing happened. As you can imagine, stupidly valuable. These are like the Pope himself wrote these things, like super powerful. But we had no way to be sure. We only had a good religion roll. We weren't sure. And so this obnoxious player said, well, it's easy. We'll just kill someone. And keep in mind, this is a gnome. Gnomes are in the small category, which means they're only 2 to 3 feet tall.
Like this size?
Yeah, a little bit bigger than a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew. And now, keep in mind, this is 3.5. Everything you could do is an ability. There is a rule. Whatever you're thinking of, there is a book that covers it to some point, including going to the bathroom. You think I'm joking. There was a book that talked about bodily health and how to incorporate roles and decisions and stuff like that and stats into your character's day-to-day health.
You get a nat 1 for taking a dump.
Yes. I think that's called sepsis.
Well, what's a nat 20 for that then? Anyway.
I'm not sure. But anyway, back to my story. And I pointed out, it's like, well, okay, how do we kill someone? And he literally stated that he drew his bow and arrow and was like, well, I'll just shoot you in the head. And I pointed out, well, you could miss. But you know what would not have a chance of missing? If I just ate you. And everyone is just stunned by this pointing out because it's like, wait, hold on. And no, we actually got into this like Socratesian debate about this. I was like, no, hold on. He has to fire an arrow at my head. There is at least, even if he was standing right in front of me, there is a distance that arrow has to travel to reach my 9-foot-tall head. However, if I just pick the little turkey up and put him in my mouth, there is no hypothetical way that he could miss, that I could miss chewing him into a pulp. Hell, and then even further, I said, hell, I could probably not even have to chew. I could probably just inhale him. And again, and by the way, Mr. Kellogg is just sitting behind the screen because he's trying not to have an opinion. He is trying to not favor anyone. But he is just smirking because he knows that we all hate this other player. I can't even remember his name now. But everyone hated him. We all would come into Kellogg's classroom and just hope. Because like the rule was 3 minutes. You had 3 minutes to get to his classroom for the lunch break to be in the game. Otherwise, I mean, we have 30 minutes. We can't wait around. We would watch that clock counting down, hoping and praying he didn't get through the door in those 3 minutes because we hated him that much. And everyone was on my side. Everyone was like, wait, that's a brilliant point. And he is trying so hard not to seem like he has a side in this because the DM is impartial. The DM is just there to read the rules and tell you what happens because you're a dice roll. But he was smirking all to hell and back. And this little gnome bastard's like, no, that physically couldn't work. And so I cracked out the monster manual. And I turned it to the index. And I looked up because, yes, this is an ability, swallow whole. And I turned to every page that had an example of this, every creature that could do this. And I pointed out, in every example, the only requirement is the creature doing it has to succeed a strength roll to get a hold of the creature that it's trying to eat. And then it has to be 2 sizes larger than its victim. Gnomes are small. Gnolls are large. You go small to normal, normal to large. That's a 2-step difference. by 3.5 standards, yes, officially in the book as it is written, a gnoll can swallow a gnome whole like a fucking pill. In other news, we found out that yes, indeed, those were scrolls of true resurrection.
Dang.
Yeah, but no, my gnoll barbarian just ate the gnome ranger. Now, to be fair, the necromancer had the smart idea. She cut his ponytail so that we had a piece of him still to resurrect. And it worked, by the way. I didn't actually... Well, you know what? Chat, help me out here. He got better. Well, hold on. If you kill another character and then you immediately use true resurrection, I want the opinion of the chat. Is that still murder? Is it murder if they get better?
You just needed a snack.
Boy, rolling to have my guy do some deep stretches. Would that be... DM Bishop, would you have that be a dexterity or a strength?
To do stretches?
To do like deep athletic stretches.
Oh, that's a good one. I guess I want to say dexterity. Yeah, dexterity.
See, my family is coming to defend me. He got better. It was well, he was not willing. He opposed this very much, but the rest of the party was willing. So hey, democracy. He lived technically, so it's not murder. There you go. Oh. Hi, Kettle. I'm Pot. How are you? Shall we tell them of your escapades, Inadati?
No.
Anyway. But that's probably my oldest D&D story. But I have another one, and I'm glad Tara's here in the chat because she can verify this happened. So I wanted my family to play D&D with me. And unfortunately, basically everyone in my household was of that mentality that they couldn't play. They weren't smart enough to play it. They didn't have the time to do it. Excuse me. Except for my sister. My sister was the only person outside of Kellogg's classroom that I could get... Oh, excuse me again. I'm okay. I swear I'm okay. I promise. Anyway. No, I am okay. That was kind of scary, though. Anyway, though. My sister was the only one who would even entertain the idea of playing D&D. My mom did sit down one time. I remember she played a druid. Because she was a florist, so she wanted to do stuff with plants, so she was a druid. And yet her goal was gold. She wanted treasure. She wanted to go find treasure. A druid that cares about treasure. I love you, Mom. I wish you were in the chat here. But Pops never did anything wrong except that one time. See, I don't know if I'd say except that one time. If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, that was kind of awesome, actually. And I will get to that later. But anyway, so my sister sat down and actually played D&D with me a couple times. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I was super winging it. I didn't have the Dungeon Master's manual. I literally was basically just trying to imitate Mr. Kellogg and how he DM'd. So it was pretty shot and rough and go. But my goal was that with this one adventure, there was a castle. Inside was this wizard dude, and he was guarding a bunch of treasure. And that was the idea. The goal was get into this castle that has a magic barrier around it. The idea was that they were supposed to explore it and find these crystals that were charging and powering up the force field, and they would have to break the crystals to get to the castle. And then along came my sister, who had this brilliant question that I could not... Little middle school me couldn't answer this. This was back in like 02 or 03, I want to say. And she posed the question, why don't we just dig under the force field? Does it go into the ground? I was not prepared for that question. I also was not prepared for the feat of strength that she went on to perform to just start digging underneath the force field. Oh, hi, Mom. I was just talking about you. Yes, fine. Yes, Tara, it was awesome. Yeah, Tara's just dying laughing because she remembers how that blew my mind. I was ready with everything else. I had what monsters were going to be guarding the crystals. I had ideas for if they tried to just wander off into the woods around the castle. I was not prepared for the the sentence, I dig under the force field. I was not prepared for that, and it just completely wrecked me. If I'm not mistaken, I let her do it too. Like, she succeeded in that athletic role, which is a strength based, to get under there. Oh God, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember too much else about that game, but I remember that. And I was so flabbergasted. But yeah, now after that, I didn't really get after what was that, the 6th or 7th grade, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was 7th grade. After middle school, even in 8th grade, before I got into true high school, D&D just kind of faded away for me. Other stuff was going on in my life, most of it bad. And it really didn't crop back up on my radar until I had moved out here to Colorado. And Colorado. And that's actually where really me and you had our first face-to-face interactions, because you moved out here.
Yeah.
And we were playing.
There was already a game going.
Yeah, but
Kale and Silver and you had a game, and when I moved in.
Yeah, you just joined in.
The four of us, yeah.
And that gave rise to probably. See, it's hard to say, but I think maybe my favorite character I've ever played, Mognir Scourgemaw, which is another Gnoll. This is the model that I actually used for this guy. You want to put him up there? Which is another Gnoll. He was a Warlock, which is not a wizard, by the way, but another magic user. I'll get to that, Tara. Don't worry.
Big
but
hyena with a spear.
Basically, yeah. And when I was preparing for this game, I asked myself, what is a character that every week, right down to it, hey! Kobold's Corner, Scraps, you're here.
I texted him and told him we were telling D&D.
Mognir, yes.
We literally just got to...
We just got to your guys' part. Yeah. So, Kobold's Corner, his little mascot, actually. Where is he? I can't tell if I'm pointing. This little guy. Scraps actually comes from that game. That was his D&D character in what we refer to as the Kale campaign. Because Kale was the DM at the time. And he hated us. So okay, I'll explain what I mean. So before we started this game, I basically sat myself down and said, okay, look, every week I'm going to be spending 2 to 3 hours with this character, playing this character. What do I want to spend time with? And I came up with this idea of, well, what is a Gnoll? What is a Warlock? Because that's what he is. His race was Gnoll and his class was Warlock. So for context, a warlock is basically someone who enters into a pact or bargain with some sort of supernatural entity in return for magic power. Okay, that a lot of time people dumb it down to selling your soul for magic powers, and it doesn't have to be that way, but that was kind of the case with Mognir. Oh yes, Tara made several dice holders for us, which one of them is actually on this table, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Beholder.
Yeah, your beholder. Anyway, and so...
Hi, Jesus.
Oh! Jesus! All the way from Bass Pro Shop is in the chat. Hi there! Yeah, you're not here to defend yourself. I can tell everyone all about what kind of player you are. I'm getting to you. Don't worry. Don't worry, I'm saving you for last. Anyway, so I basically was like, okay, so this is a character who's more or less sold his soul. Gnolls are a very much classic evil race. They are violent, they are arrogant, they are unreasonable. They're monsters. Okay, I want to crank that up to 11. I want to be this character who is profoundly arrogant, profoundly selfish. I actually based him off, and this might blow some people's mind, I based him off Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. I based him off of Vegeta, this guy who's basically an asshole, but deep down he does care about his friends and allies. He just is a dick about it.
I like Vegeta.
Yeah, Prince Vegeta. I even actually put in a reference to that. There were several instances where Mognir would get mad and he would point out that by any other race's standards, he was a prince because his father was the chieftain of his tribe. And so he equated that to being a prince, just like Vegeta is the prince of all Saiyans and so on. But no, Vegeta was the big inspiration for Mognir. And our DM, Kale, hated Mognir with a passion. No, you don't realize. Every other game session, he tried to get Mognir killed. He hated Mognir so damn much because I was an evil-aligned character, and so he always was worried that I was going to decide to go kick a puppy or something, even though Mognir wasn't that kind of evil.
Mognir was cool. I wouldn't say he's evil. More evil than Inada, of course.
Yeah, well... See, I admit I did... When I made the character sheet, I did write down that he was chaotic evil. Not because he was a puppy-kicking, baby-eating psychopath, but because the core aspects of his character were negative. He was arrogant. He was selfish. He was unreasonable. These are evil traits. These are something that an evil character can be described as. So, being completely honest, yes, he was chaotic evil. Yeah. Although I can also see the argument, because Scraps in the chat here can actually... Yeah, yeah, that was a few times. Scraps shouted, Mognir, no! And and I was just like, Mognir, yes! And then there'd be some kind of explosion of hellfire and screaming shadows and shit. Oh god, so many fun times with that. And again, the DM hated it. He hated Mognir so much. But anyway, one of my all-time favorite stories actually has to do with your character. So the bishop over in the corner, he played a Minotaur fighter named Tyrios. Now, you actually... This is a model you got much more recently. Careful, he's metal.
Yeah, this is not the actual model I used as Tyrios.
But that is a model that you have used since then for Tyrios. This is I believe that's a Games Workshop Doom Bull.
And this is metal.
Yeah, that's pewter. That's old. Yeah, Scraps was very fun because Mognir was like 8-9 feet tall, and Scraps was a little 4-foot tall kobold. And if I recall, there were times he would literally stand on my shoulders or your character's shoulders.
Yeah, because
because you were also 9 feet freaking tall. We were two big monsters with a little monster.
Tell him how Mognir and Scraps met on the first game.
Oh yes, their origin. Okay, so
this is before I came in. This is before I moved
before the glory of the bar scene, that actually made Kale want to walk away from the table, supposedly. Uh-oh.
Is it Jesus or
No, it's Scraps. Hold on a second.
We got Scraps.
Hello? Hello? Did he accidentally? Oh, you called. Hey.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello, friend.
Put him on speakerphone. Yeah, I'm sure he has a story.
Was going to call and join in because
Yeah.
fun dynamic talking about our D&D characters.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'll put you on speaker.
So we have Scraps coming in.
This is DJ Scraps. Can you say something so they can see? We can see if they can hear
What's
you.
up, everybody?
Are they picking? Is the microphone picking? Talk, you son of a bitch.
I'm talking.
Yeah.
It is picking up. Okay, so yeah, I was just about to tell the story of how Scraps and Mognir actually met.
I absolutely love that story.
So we were both Scraps and Mognir were would we say exiles, outcasts, so to speak?
Kind of. I mean, yeah,
Well-
no, exiles is a good word.
I don't know the polite way to say that you left your town screaming from an angry mob. Anyway, though, so Mognir's father was the chief of their tribe, and everyone knew that succession passes on through lineage. So obviously he was going to become the next chieftain, but his tribe didn't like this idea because they were afraid of him being a hothead who would create all kinds of conflict and stuff. So, of course, they did the reasonable thing. They cracked him over the head, threw a sack over him, and buried him in a shallow grave.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Scraps...
Want me to tell this part?
Yeah. Tell them of how Scraps the Bard came along.
So, Scraps was a kobold that was born to a tribe of Dragonborn. They raided a kobold warren and stole a bunch of eggs, and he just happened to hatch before they could eat it. He was always tiny, was never able to go on any raids or anything like that, so they let him start messing around with all the treasures they brought back, which is, of course, a bunch of different instruments and stuff like that. So he started writing songs for his tribe, for their ceremonies and stuff like that, and got it into his head one day to, his tribe worshipped Tiamat, and Scraps had no social graces whatsoever. So he decided it was an absolutely fantastic idea to give praise to Tiamat by writing a song about her butt.
Now, for context, Tiamat is a 5-headed dragon god, goddess specifically. And if I recall correctly, you kind of had a debate with the DM about, does Tiamat have 1 or 5 butts?
Yeah, just one butt, but it's really big.
Or 1 butt for 5 heads. That'd be a pretty big butt. But anyway, proceed.
But anyway, so he wrote the song. It was a surprise for the ceremony praising Tiamat. And when he played the song, Tiamat got so angry. And you got to remember that gods are not corporeal. Gods can create avatars of themselves when they get sufficiently angry or inspired enough to. So Tiamat got really, really angry at Scraps and created an avatar of herself and razed the village to the ground. And commanded the entire village to chase after him to, basically murderize him.
Make him cadaverific.
So he managed to get away, and the campaign started by him finding a fresh mound of, freshly dug dirt, and decided to try to dig himself a hole to hide, where he found Mognir. And the very first words of the campaign were, "Oh, hello, fellow coward. I see you've already dug yourself a hole."
Yep, that was literally the first thing we said to each other.
Hello, fellow coward. I see you've already dug yourself a hole.
Oh, yeah. Oh shit, did we lose him? Or did my phone just... Oh, no, okay, you're still there. My screen went black and I thought we lost the call, actually. But no, that's how Mognir and Scraps met. Now,
Yep.
I'm trying to remember, where were you during the bar scene? So, real quick, Tyrios had joined the party.
Yeah, because I moved here January 1st, 2017, and our first game
was
Like
literally
that.
a couple days ago after.
Yeah, that weekend.
Yeah, like you really came out of nowhere. But no, I remember we were in the Feywilds. If you know, you know. I don't think we have time to explain what the Feywilds is. It's a weird place. Let's put it that way.
Goofy.
It's goofy.
It's special.
It's very special. But anyway, can't be trusted with sharp objects. Anyway, though.
What are you talking about? Of course I can.
Anyway, so now to explain, Tyrios over here, he was a poster boy for being good. He was a good little noodle. Mognir was not. Mognir, there was no taboo he would not be okay with. He literally bought and traded a slave.
She was cool.
Oh,
Which Straps wasn't very happy about.
No, and neither was the DM. He was very unhappy about this. But
By the way, if you hear some crunchies, I got myself some cheese and crackers, so I apologize.
no, that's good. Hopefully it isn't gonna be stupid.
Was Tyrios was chaotic good.
I always thought he was lawful good.
He was, but he would break it every once in a while for.
So he was more
Something
neutral
good.
good.
Yeah.
See, he
neutral
always
good.
struck me as lawful because again, he was always trying to like keep everyone else from
Right.
doing.
No, he was willing to break his code for to help out from time to time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was willing to break.
I
the code with
honestly,
it.
Tyrios I would have definitely put into the realm of true neutral.
No, he was
That
too.
There were some times he did some pretty funky stuff to basically help progress the story.
Not he was. I'd still argue he was good by at least by comparison to like Mognir, who was
Stuff.
always trying to cause trouble. But anyway, so we went to a bar, and I remember I don't know what possessed us, but basically I wanted to test how far would the DM let our characters get drunk, and
This was when we were still playing with Vivi, wasn't it?
no, that was after
No.
her.
Yeah, because I never played with her.
Yeah, she only was in like 2 games and she never came back.
Yeah, she was here before.
Yeah.
Before I came in.
But anyway,
The first part of the game was us investigating the quote-unquote haunted house, right?
yeah,
I remember because that's where Straps got terrified of the vacuum.
yeah, because the DM literally couldn't describe it to us. We were like trying to figure out for the longest time what it was. And we weren't even being smartasses. We sincerely were like, what the hell is he talking about? What the heck is this thing?
It's a bat.
And finally, finally, he just crosses his fingers. So real quick, in D&D tradition, when you cross your fingers, you're speaking out of character. So you can't... So if your fingers are crossed, they can't hold it against you or stuff like that. And he just crosses his fingers and screams, "It's a vacuum, you maniacs!" And my response was, can we use that, or is that player information? Oh, he hated me so much. That's the sad part, is I wasn't even trying to be a disruptive player. I wasn't trying to be an asshole. It just seemed to come so naturally. But anyway, we were at the bar. We were at a bar, and we wanted to see really how far would the DM let us go getting drunk.
Now this was Tyrios and Mognir. Where was Scraps?
Yeah, where were you when we were in the Feywilds and Tyrios and Mognir were at the bar? You were performing on a stage, weren't you?
Yeah, I was trying to make the party money.
Yeah, you were doing a stage for tips, using your bardic skills to get people to give you money.
And what was her name?
Alexandra.
Alexandra. Okay.
Alexandra was a barmaid that Mognir traded his slave for, and she actually became a party member.
And after that,
A boss fight.
Auxiliary villain in my campaign.
Yeah,
But anyway, the story. of
but back to the bar, the bar scene, the infamous bar scene. Now, for context, Mognir had just freshly lost his eye. He sold his eye. He gave his left eye, I believe it was, for a slave, which was actually brain dead. So he traded that slave away for a barmaid, because honestly, he mentioned that there was a slaver, and I was like, I just want to see what he would let me do. Like, is he really going to let me have a slave? And then he did, and it was brain dead, and it was like, well, this is useless. I want a useful party member. But anyway,
your eye for brain dead slave.
I did. Yes, I did. Because anyway, but back to the point. So Mognir had just lost his eye, and if I recall, you guys were still ticked at me about having a slave in the first damn place. But I convinced you to sit down at the bar and have drinks with me. And it took a few dice rolls, but we started getting drunk. And the funny thing is that the DM was just not playing along at all. At all. He
was trying to do everything in his power to not let you do a trade.
Yeah, he was trying to not let it happen. He was already pissed off at me. And the funny thing is
mostly I think it was because he didn't want to play an NPC character throughout the entire campaign himself.
Yeah. But anyway, and so me and the bishop over here, we had the great idea. We'll just act drunk ourselves. We don't need the DM to tell us how it is to be drunk. And
I don't even think there was any alcohol at all on the table.
No, we were not. We didn't have any alcohol. We totally were just playing it up.
No, the alcohol got introduced into the D&D games a little bit later when we realized, hey, D&D and drinking is fun.
Yeah, apparently I turn into the Joker when I get drunk, though. Everything is funny, and I have the most mean-spirited ideas.
Yeah, you are a pretty goofy drunk.
But anyway, back to the story. So, oh god, me and Tyrios, apparently I remember my thing was that Mognir became extremely forgetful when he was drunk. And so Tyrios just looks at Mognir's like, Mognir, your eye's missing. And so Tyrios and Mognir just go on this rampage inside of the tavern, the bar, looking for Mognir's eye. And they found this dog's chew toy, a little rubber ball.
God, I remember that.
That was Alexandra's, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was.
She was a dog lady.
Yeah, she was a dog person.
She was a black and white husky.
Labrador, I think. I'm not sure actually.
Anyway, yeah, you found a ball.
Husky. Yeah, she was a little dog person. But anyway, and Mognir, I remember you actually did some pretty nasty damage to me trying to force this rubber ball into my empty eye socket.
Heroes is not the most intelligent character, but when he has a gallon of dwarven ale or whatever, he gets even less intelligent.
Oh yes, very much a creature of impulse. And the funny thing is we had got it. We actually pulled it off. It took me down to half health. I was very in bad shape. But we actually got the ball to stay in his eye socket. Only then did Mognir realize. Only at that time did Mognir realize, wait, this isn't an eye. It's a rubber ball. Why is there a rubber ball inside my skull? What the hell? And so Tyrios just has the brilliant idea to start smacking Mognir in the back of the head to try and get this ball dislodged.
Didn't he manage to, in that one session to get you down to, single-digit HP?
Yes, I was below 10 health. I remember I was in single digits. Mognir almost died trying to get this ball into his eye socket and then back out. But we managed to get it out, and it ricocheted across the room and hit somebody.
And Alexandra...
Alexandra, out of reflex, went chasing after it. But then...
Because at the time, she was still wearing the slaver's collar and didn't really have much of a...
free will, or mind.
Of her own.
Now, I want to point something out real quick, because I've acknowledged that Mognir was an evil character. It was also Mognir who took that slave collar off of her. Yep. Okay, so for all the nasty things you could say about Mognir being a murderer, being selfish, he was the one to actually give her her freedom, for lack of a better term, and take the collar off of her.
If I remember correctly, wasn't that actually the plan?
No, that was not it. The reason Mognir did it was because he realized that without her being able to really think, she was basically just another brain-dead slave. And so she wasn't useful, so he agreed to take it off of her. Although I do have the question, why did she stay?
I think I think it was because she was grateful to you, and two, I think she just didn't have anywhere else to go.
Because, that's something that, thinking about it, it's like, wait.
And we all treated
She
her
could,
good, so.
yeah. Her and the DM played a cleric character named Kava. Most of the time, she just stuck around with Kava, while me, Terios, and Scraps were doing things that made the DM's hair turn gray. But anyway,
That's why in my campaign I put them both together as two main.
they
two
became
main antagonists.
the main villains. But anyway, there's a second half to this, because now Mognir is down to single-digit health. He is painfully drunk. My head hurts, by the way. Thanks for carrying, Terios. I'm going to go to bed. And here's the thing, for how much he hated this. Because, again, the DM is just watching me and the bishop play and just fuming at us. He is so annoyed. He escalated. Because I said Mognir is going to go to bed.
He enjoyed it.
He was
too,
the one.
Mostly.
It was the DM's idea to have the bedrooms in this tavern upstairs.
Oh God!
You remember that?
This is just okay. So a little bit of context before this. Our DM loved puns, absolutely loved them. And I remember this now. You just unlocked a little bit of a memory, because remember that Scraps found the keys to the drop zone. Remember that?
I remember that, yes.
And a little bit of an aside, real quick. So throughout the entire night, Scraps was also getting drunk, because they were tipping him in alcohol.
What
more or less.
the hell? I don't know. Hold on a second, Scraps. We have a guest here. Finally, are you going to actually sit down on the couch? No, you're going to flop down on my...
Flop down over here.
Of course.
But the camera.
We just fixed it. Get your ass over here. Yes, you're fat. Get over here. I don't give a shit. Seriously.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Scraps
Hey,
is on
fuck
the
you
phone.
both. I'm talking here.
Everybody. Jesus is here.
What's up, homie?
What's up, Ish?
Alright, we're talking about
So-
our first campaign of the three.
We're getting to you. Don't worry.
I wasn't part of that campaign.
No, you were not. But anyway, yeah, no. So we had these things that the DM gave us the keys to the drop zone.
As a joke.
Yeah, as a
But-
joke. For the life of us, we didn't know what they were actually for. But anyway, you were saying.
So, after that, go ahead and tell your story real quick.
Yeah, the stairs.
The saga of trying to get upstairs.
So you have two 9-foot-tall muscular monsters drunk off their asses. One of them has a massive headache because they just planted and removed a rubber ball from his eye socket. And now we have stairs to climb.
Sounds like a good night to me.
So
How many acrobatics rolls did he make you do?
he made us roll one for every step we took. That's how drunk we were.
And our dice just did not like us. Like, I got most of the way up and fell backwards.
You got,
and
like,
just
halfway.
knocked you out, knocked
Okay,
you out and
Here's
smashed
my
you.
question. How close were you guys to dying just from falling on the stairs?
We took damage.
We took damage. I almost did drop. I almost did. But anyway, so I made 3 successful steps up the stairs. Tyrios actually, according to the DM, was like halfway there with like 6 or 7. Somehow you pulled it off. And then you just failed, fell backwards, crashed into me, and we just anime snowballed style down back to the base of the stairs.
And we
It scraps,
smashed the
too.
stairs, didn't we? Because I just fell backwards and broke them.
Oh yeah, no, you did damage to it.
Did the DM?
Yeah,
Yes.
you guys rolled into scraps too.
That's right. You had come over to see what the hell we were doing, and we fell on top of you.
I was trying to get upstairs too. Yeah.
The people in the bar must have just...
We're just
laughed.
watching in horror. No, but Mognir had this great idea. Terios, roll me up the stairs.
Oh, God,
No,
that's
no,
right.
it'll be great. I can't fall down if I'm already on the ground. And you can't fall down if you're bracing yourself against my 400-pound body. Mostly muscle, by the way. Anyway, and we actually made it 4 steps up, if I'm not mistaken, before once again we fell back down, and Mognir was just like, Terios,
Eh.
I'm going to sleep on the floor right here.
Mm.
And if I'm not mistaken, were you still stuck under us, or did you manage to get out of the way?
No, I managed to get out from under y'all, and then like went completely full lizard and skittered up the stairs on all fours.
That's right. You crawled up the stairs. But that's when Mognir and Tyrius just went to bed right there on the floor at the base of the stairs.
The fuck y'all
So-
physics, I substitute my own lizard powers.
You know, you can't argue with results.
So, after that, like it was directly after that because we were going to end the game soon. So Scraps managed to get upstairs, and the innkeeper had given us all separate rooms, separate keys. Scraps drunk ass was fumbling with the keys and managed to grab the keys to the drop zone. And tried to unlock his door with that, and managed to teleport the entire party to another world.
Mm-hmm.
That was the entire next 2 sessions.
Yeah, before the game just kind of stopped.
Mm-hmm. I remember that very specifically because we teleported into the middle of a town and had to fight off gigantic lobster monsters.
I remember that, and we had a Sarlacc pit. And the DM thought he had finally killed Mognir, and he read the module, and the Sarlacc pit actually wasn't a pit. It was just a bunch of tentacles coming out of the ground, and there was no rules at all for what happens if it actually knocks you in the water, and he wasn't created enough to actually do anything, so Mognir was fine.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so mad. Dude, no, he
I
was
would have
so...
gone full adult anime on you.
No, he was so pissed off, too, and you could tell. Because he was excited. He was like, this is it. I finally got Mognir. He's going to die. He's going to die. And I see him look at his screen and scroll through. And I just see his face change from triumph to tragedy as he realizes there is no information at all in the modular he was using for what happens if those tentacles knock you into the water with it.
That means you do your own rules, and whatever happens.
He couldn't for the life of him think of anything.
I just remember that module specifically because at the time we had gotten our hand on a couple of the newer playbooks for 4th edition before it went out of copy.
Yeah.
And found out that the bard could learn some artificer skills, and could learn how to make clockwork bombs.
Yep, I remember that. You became a mad bomber.
Yeah. For that entire module, I was using those, and what was really fun during the lobster fight, I managed to crawl under one and shove one of them up inside of its shell. You want to talk about a coup de grace? That was a coup de grace.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, a coup de grace is when you do something to an enemy monster that even the DM has to throw his hands up and go, that doesn't do damage, that just kills it.
Well, we had halflings with us during the big battle where we raided the fort, right? They were halflings?
Were they halflings?
Anyway, we had 10 halflings, and we were fighting other people. And
which fight was this?
When we were going into the fortress. And one of the enemies went down, but he had 1 hit point left, and he was on the ground. And it was our halfling's turn to go, and he was going to go do a coup de grace and just stab him and kill him with a knife. He rolled a nat 1, and as he was going to stab him, he stabbed himself in the chest and died.
No,
I remember.
Wait, was this when we were trying to get the airship?
Wasn't that no? That was the factory.
It was the big factory that.
Yeah,
it was the factory. Yeah.
where we met where we met Robin, the robot dude,
And the big manticore.
and the Manticore. Yeah.
Remember the freaking gnomes?
Oh, those were from. Was that my campaign or yours?
No, that was from Kale's campaign. Because we had to
When
we
we
had to fight
stole
gnomes
the
off to get
airship, that's right. They were gnomes.
Yeah, it was gnomish technology that we had to fight them off to get to the airship, and that was when Kale realized that their cloaking ability stacked on each other when they were in close proximity to each other.
We had to lure them out onto the deck of the ship.
Yep, and if I remember correctly, that's when Tyrios discovered that gnome hunting was fun.
That's right. He discovered he had a passion for making gnomes bounce.
We all related to my bloodline.
I had forgotten about that.
Oh god, no. So for the uninitiated, real quick, abusing gnomes is a theme for all the games we've been in.
No.
Oh, good night,
Have
Mom.
a good night, Tina.
Love you, Mom.
Bye.
That's my mom. Anyway, though.
That's why I said bye.
Anyway, anyhow, so yeah, no,
Danhausen?
we had love that Danhausen. Anyway, though,
Damn.
anyway,
In and out.
you buying?
Danhausen.
I'm broke.
You're useless. Anyway, though, but
Licenses are expensive, bro.
I
If he says, just so you guys know, if he says anyway again, you guys get a free sandwich.
you buying?
I ain't buying.
I'm not. So, as I was saying, though, but yeah, no, that was the bar scene. That was probably one of my most. I love that. I will always treasure that memory. That is one of my favorite moments in all of D&D.
Good night.
Facing the. Good night, Dad. Facing the daunting challenge of getting a 400-pound, 9-foot-tall hyena man up a flight of stairs.
Do you remember? You remember the tavern scene towards the beginning of the game? It was right when we had met up with Vivi's character because she was playing as a mercenary, if I remember correctly.
Oh, jeez.
We went into a tavern after having discovered a picnic basket that would allow food to be stored indefinitely and create infinite copies of itself. Our DM was trying to use it to get around the having to feed ourselves requirement, so we wouldn't have to do it during the game.
Yeah.
Well, we went into a tavern and discovered that tavern sold dragon steaks. Dragon steaks are a real thing in D&D. They work like health potions.
Yeah.
You eat one, you roll to basically regain lost health.
Yeah.
He didn't know that until we looked it up. He also didn't know that we were complete and utter maniacs, and decided to steal the dragon steaks, stuff them in the picnic basket, headbutted the waiter in the balls, flipped the table, and ran away with them.
So hold on, you're glossing over this. I'll jump in. First of all, that waiter was a douchebag, and he was
Yes,
a
he was.
bigot. He initially refused to get you a high chair when
Yes,
you
he
were
did.
only 4 foot tall. That's rude.
No, I completely agree with the waiter.
You would. Anyway,
Oh, you wrong.
and so
Waiter and headbutt him nuts.
yes,
Being a Dutch.
yes, that was the plan. He jumped down off Scraps, jumps down out of his high seat that we finally got for him, and he just headbutts the maitre d'. But when you're 4 foot tall and you headbutt an elf, you get him right in the groin. So he headbutted the guy in the balls.
Yep.
Mognir,
Ended that big bloodline right there.
Mognir has this brilliant idea of he'll make a distraction. He throws a table across the room.
That's right. We didn't flip the table. He picked up and threw the table.
I did, and we ran like bats out of hell out of it.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't even have the picnic baskets at the time. We just grabbed everything with the tablecloth and ran.
Yep. And then immediately after we got the picnic basket. But anyway, and yes, by the way, apparently I did hit a few people and do some damage. I don't think anyone was killed, but I did throw it.
We were banned from that town.
We were. Oh yeah, no, we had to go running. They called the cops on us.
Wasn't it by the time we were 3 or 4 sessions in, we had 4 separate mobs coming after us?
Oh yeah, no, we were not allowed anywhere.
Because we had the Dragonborns coming after me, your chieftain coming after you, the town coming after all of us, and then for a while we had the orcs coming after us too because we accidentally killed their chieftain's son.
That was an honorable duel. I will die on this hill. That was an honorable fight.
Until Scrap sent him into the Feywild to get shredded by fairies.
Oh right, I remember that guy. That was the other orc that we murdered.
Yeah.
We glossed over this, but the best way to describe the Feywild is super LSD. and Super Acid had a baby,
and it became super.
and no,
That
no,
was in
became
that was in
Super
my
Duper.
campaign, wasn't it?
Did we go back?
Yeah, that was in my campaign because that was with what's her face, the Kitsune.
Oh, yeah. The one that kept trying to molest poor Bishop's character.
Oh yeah, I did not help with that at all.
No, you did not.
I made shit worse.
Yeah, no. But people wonder, and you guys all wondered, why... Wait, in your campaign, Kristoff, why was Iron kind of a villain? Because he was victimized quite horribly in the previous game, okay?
He was fine.
He was fine. No, he was not.
He was a victim.
He was! By definition! The poor man was molested multiple times! By one of the most unattractive characters I've ever seen. Well, people I've ever seen. But anyway, we are well past time. And I haven't even begun talking about...
I came over so I could talk about myself, so...
Yeah.
We didn't even get to the stories until like almost an hour in.
Well, I had to give
You
context.
had to rant about 5e.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of derailed things on y'all.
That's fine. Well, see, I'm tempted to say we'll have to do a part 2, but would you be here next week?
Me?
Both of you.
Should?
Yeah, I can
Or
be
do
here.
you guys want us to keep going?
We haven't even gotten to the bear yet. This is a midnight episode.
This is going to
Yeah.
midnight. Oh, God.
I could definitely be have a call with y'all next week if you wanted.
Sure.
I'll be here.
You think?
I don't
Will
think-
you?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything planned. No. Next thing, yeah, I'll be here.
Okay,
You don't sound too sure.
I'm gonna make a
No,
DM.
because
I'm gonna make a DM decision here. We're gonna have to cut it and go into next week. Next week we will continue the adventures of D&D. This time I won't have to sit here and do an hour giving backstory. Next week we'll be able to talk about the absolute blight and wonder that was Itka Babymaker.
he
Oh God,
was a
it
fucking angel.
Bullshit!
He was the fucking pope.
He may have been a pope.
God damn right I was. No,
Yeah,
but
like-
I know I won't be here on the 8th. I got invited to a pagan thing.
I'm not shocked given you. Anyway,
West Virginia.
probably.
Just remember that Itka is the progenitor of the entire dwarven race.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We'll get to that though,
Yeah,
but we'll be
yeah,
there
yeah.
next week. In the meantime, yeah,
No, it's a Wednesday. I was told it was a Wednesday.
whatever.
Yeah, and it was almost an hour. It was like 45 minutes.
Anyway, I have been your host, Kristoff N. Chester. This is the not fashionably but very much late Jesus.
It's still fashionably late.
Whatever. There's the bishop over in the corner.
Hi.
Scraps bouncing around on your shoulder over there, little bugger.
As always.
And of course, we have DJ Scraps on the phone, who you can check out over on Kobold's Corner.
I think we need to get the list
Yep.
a bigger number.
Threw out a couple of new songs over the last couple of weeks.
Yep,
and,
he does have a few new songs.
Unfortunately, my streams are on hold right now because the network card on my computer died, so I can't stream. But
Ooh.
yep, I'm always putting out new music. So
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, we'll get a.
How'd
we'll get
that one thing you were doing a few weeks ago, that performance show?
the Game Jam thing?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, the game jam.
Oh, yeah, I think we lost him.
How was that?
no, I'm here.
Oh,
Hi.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I had to drop out of the game jam, unfortunately, because we were having issues with my computer, so I wasn't able to submit my stuff in time.
That's
But I got music from it.
Yeah.
So, hey, can't complain.
And here's a link to Kobold's Corner. Go check out his music. He just released a new song about a week ago.
yeah. It was about a week or two ago. But anyway, yeah. Go check out DJ Scraps with some cool new music. We'll be back next week with more adventures from the kitchen table of Dungeons and Dragons. Find out exactly why he was called Itka the Babymaker. What the hell is even a Nearn the Fallen? And why the hell do you never, ever, ever give a woman a wand of teleportation?
Or why was a Goliath a freaking dwarf?
We'll see you then,
Next
everybody.
time on Drugs in the Feywild.
The Feywild are
That is
drugs.
not. That is not sticking. I swear it's not going to. Anyway, folks, we'll see you next week. Keep checking the shadows.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Later, Holmes.